Alright, it's your boy Nine Spiral. We're back. We're talking about the great fires of the 1800s. You see, what are you hiding, man? Because none of it makes sense. All these fires popping off all across the cities of the eastern coast, right, of America, the west coast, South America, Canada, even overseas. And so these researchers are digging up what we call a global mass attack, starting in the 1800s. And like I said before, not even to mention the catastrophes they're hiding in the 1700s. We can go back to the 16s. These researchers call them resets. We call them biblical catastrophes, right? Who is Tecumseh? Yeah, we're going to dig on Tecumseh. Howdy Mikowski. Let's go.
Welcome to today's historical live video. Today we're looking at a very charged topic. Actually, I say that as a pun, but not actually. And that is the great city fires that happened all through, particularly North America, in the 1800s. If you start looking into the history of any city, they had some giant fire that seems to have burned down almost the entire city. Boston, New York, Chicago, St. Louis, Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Seattle, Portland, Galveston, Texas. I mean, it kind of doesn't matter. Just pick a city and you're going to have a giant fire. And I came across it when I was researching in my Exposing the Expositions book. And I do have a few, about 6 pages on the fires in here. And it started because the book really started just as a look at the Chicago World's Fair. I didn't realize.
There you go, people. Look how small the people are. They want us to believe that they built this shit. Hey, man, go back. Look at the lack of people. I mean, that's what we see popping off in the 1800s, y'all. Lack of people. Muddy streets. I've seen some pictures where buildings was burnt in the ground, incinerated. What's going on?
And of course, Chicago had its Great 1871 fire. And so I had to look into that fire as I was looking into how does the city pretty much burn down, then build a giant exposition 20 years later and allow that to get burned down / torn down, or at the very least build temporary buildings when you would think if most of the city's burned down, you need buildings. Why wouldn't you build permanent structures then for the fair and you have the buildings that you need? That would be logical. So all of this stuff got me thinking. And it wasn't until I was halfway through the research that on that greatstolenhistory.org site, which is now gone, the site creator, Corbin Dallas, KD, as we know, did a great thread called Urban urban fire verdict, global attack on our civilization, or incompetency. And I'll leave the link below. That some of that thread still exists on that Wayback Machine. It's too bad the whole thing and a lot of the photographs are gone now. But he started that thread with this very clear comment. This could possibly be the biggest cover-up in the history of mankind. At the same time, it could be a case of the most mind-boggling stupidity. And yeah, so how does every city in, we'll say for sure the United States, but Europe and all the other, I mean, they happened in Australia, they happened in New Zealand, they happened everywhere. But we'll just take North America for now, for the sake of this discussion. And first of all, how does every city have a fire like that? You would think after a certain number of fires have broken out in cities all over the country, the other cities would start to think, hey, the likelihood of it happening here is pretty high. We should begin making plans to deal with it. Cities seem to never make plans to deal with it. Secondly, when I'm going to start showing you the photographic evidence that we have of these cities, they do not look like standard fire damage. When I'm going to show you the photos, and we'll just show them to you, I'm just showing you a few randomly as I'm talking here just to whet your appetite, but when I show them to you a little bit later, photo after photo after photo, you're going to begin to see that they all have the same look to them, and the look of just fire does not handle the story. And one of the things that comes in the stories, of course, is that the cities are built of wood. They're all wooden buildings, and that's why they were so easy to burn. But when you look at like this example of Chicago back in the 1950s, from what was the panorama that I'm showing it to you from? The Hessler, right? The Hessler panorama of 1858. These look like solid brick stone buildings. These are the buildings that are burning down and that you're seeing pulverized. When you look at the photos, you don't see a lot of wood around. What you see is a lot of brick and stone virtually melted, and in many cases just sheared and hacked, like almost like a knife has gone through them. And it just doesn't look like any sort of fire I've ever recognized, other than, I'm sorry, I'm a bit rambling a bit on the topic because it's such a huge topic. I remember when I was a kid, I had a book called The Pictorial History of Firefighting. Had it when I was like 6 or 7 years old. Fascinating book, right, of old pumped water trucks that would be pulled, guys with their handlebar mustaches, the first firemen. And I remember a lot of these photographs were in the book of these early fires. And even at the age of 6 or 7, it came to mind like, this looks like Hiroshima after an atomic bomb. Like, but I never put two and two together. Like, hey, wait a minute. Am I looking at an atomic bomb or am I looking at a fire kind of thinking? So but it was in my head. It was still there. So all of a sudden, these 45 years later, when I start writing the exposition book and I have to look into these fires, maybe that's still in the back of my mind. Like, what actually are we looking at? And when I went to talk to my building contractor, I showed him, when I was showing him the photos of the fairs and how, and as I talked about how that's impossible to build, I happened to show him some of the city fires too. And I remember, this is a guy he's seen a lot of fires, right? He's like one of the top building contractors in this country. So when you need major construction, he's one of the people that get called in. So he's seen lots of big fires, the results of them, because he's the one who has to figure out how do you rebuild this, what are we gonna put here. So he's seen the result. I showed him the photographs. He was clear. I've never seen any photo, any fire that looks like this. Because he went through all of the details of how he understands how fire has affected buildings, right? This is an expert. And, where's the scorch damage? There's nothing here that indicates anything's been scorched, anything has black fire damage. This is pulverized. And so you have to start wondering, what have we been looking at in all of these photographs? Are we looking at just pure incompetence where the people running the cities didn't know what the hell they were doing and allowed city after city after city to burn to the ground? Or are we looking at the remnants of at least a continent-wide attack on human cities? And I have to lean highly likely that that's what we're looking at. We're not looking at just a fire. We're looking at the result of warfare in some form. Now, I can't prove that because I don't have the video footage of the thing happening, but that seems to be a high possibility. And even when you look at Civil War photographs, the cities look the same. Even though they're claimed to have not been destroyed by fire, they're claimed to have been destroyed either purposely or, in some sort of bombardment in the Civil War. And even
all this paradigm was, he told me that it was made and created in 19th century. Even back then in 1995, he told me that. So this is what the Russian Soviet paradigm was created in 20th century. It's even more modern than
illustration, just like the fake courtroom cases that they have in the States here. It's fake when they give you like a painting, courtroom is, it's all staged, it's all bullshit. But it's interesting that we see all these other Civil War photos with the Masons with the hand in the pocket, with the staged cannonballs pyramided up. And we see these, and we know they say photography came out like in the 1830s. Everything was invented in the 1830s or built in the 1830s. And we don't see any fighting scenes, man. We don't see any fighting scenes.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of photos with the guys posing, and I made a video about those weird photos where we just see stage photos, man.
when you look at the Civil War photographs, like the ones that are coming up on your screen here, do you really think that the supposed cannon material and weapon material of the Civil War could really do that kind of damage? Like, how long would one of those cannons or 10 of those cannons have to stand at a building and reload and constantly put the balls in to take down building after building after building? How much would you need? So I'm just going to read a couple of things from my book about the fires and leave you with then. Actually, let's start with some photographs. That's a good idea. Let's start with more photographs first. So I'm just leaning in because I'm clicking on my computer as I go along. So here's Baltimore, 1904. And again, what's interesting, notice how the telephone poles are fine. The fire has burned the buildings, has burned everything around them, but the telephone poles, or whatever these telegraph wires are, they're fine. Here, this is Toronto in 1904. The city's pulverized. That was San Francisco. Here again, that's I think Baltimore again. This one that's also Baltimore. Here's a part of a photo of San Francisco. This is Galveston, Texas, right? So this is Galveston in 1885, and again, it's amazing to see that literally the brick and the stone have been melted almost to the point of complete pulverization, and the trees in the background are fine. Trees in the background are fine. We're looking here at New York's, oh no, this is probably Chicago. We're looking here at 1849. This is St. Louis. Here's some screenshots I just made of the Chicago fire along the way. This one is, I think there's one of Boston in here. Yeah, the Great Fire of Boston. I mean, this looks like Dresden in Germany. And yeah, I know I know what you're going to say. That a firestorm was created, but the firestorm wasn't just a couple of guys lit some matches to some gasoline cans. I mean, there was thousands of tons of incendiary bombs put on the city in order to create that particular fire in Dresden. But this looks like Dresden, right? This looks like Dresden in 1945. And there's another one. There's that one in Chicago I showed you before. So we have to really ask what went on in these fires. And I'm just going to read a couple things from the book to help you, because I'm doing this as a very short presentation. I mean, to really do this justice, this should be 2 or 3 hours long and should include mass detail. And I'm kind of hoping, I'm doing this video with the hope that other researchers out there will be really interested in this material, will go start looking, because there's thousands of photos on the internet of these cities, to look at the photos in more detail. Maybe people who have some experience with fire and insurance and what buildings should look like and how buildings get destroyed, and can come and share information, or actually more importantly, actually go take this, what I'm doing, and take it deeper. Go more deeply into what might be happening here, because I think it's extremely important. So I'm talking about the Chicago fire, which happened on October 8, 1871. Again, always claimed to have begun by a wayward cow knocking over a candle, right? Most of these fires have really goofy stories as to how they started. The first thing to realize is that this fire was not in isolation. There were 4 giant fires that day all along Lake Michigan. In Prestigo, Wisconsin, where 2,500 people died, Holland, Michigan, and Manistee, Michigan. 4 great fires on the same day in the same general location is too coincidental. Ignatius Donnelly, author and scientist, suggested in the 1880s that the fires must have been caused by a meteor strike. In 2004, physicist Robert Wood named it Bella's Comet specifically. The story that a running cow could have started this blaze in Chicago is a nice story for kids to believe, like the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus.
Hi, my tribe. We're digging on the 1812 comet and who is Tecumseh. And why are they hiding this shit, man? Who had a brother that was a prophet? Man, come on, let's go. We rocking out with Static Enigmatic.
Jared, welcome to my channel, Static in the Attic. I am about to show you the holy grail of truthers, how the NWO rose to power, all of it. And I'm gonna do this through documented official history. We're gonna go all the way around the world. Guys, I'm already up to the cause of the civil wars in all the countries, the world wars. It all ties together, and I'm going to show you how after 20 years of researching every subject under the sun, me spending 2 summers out here in the American Southwest looking for answers that I didn't even know the question to, spending hours staring at that ruined landscape, all this stuff that made absolutely no sense. I'm going to show you how the floodwaters opened up, literally and figuratively, as soon as I saw this map, to explain everything that we see in the world today. I am not kidding. Now, look, let's just get into it. I'm about to explain why the Mayflower landed here back in the 1500s, and for 200 years, all the Western world was confined to this side of North America. And it's because there was a great civilization. It is documented. I have proof of how great the Native American civilization actually was. There was a great catastrophe in the time frame of 1812. That is when the NWO rose to power. Guys, it wiped out this whole area of the country, and I am going to prove it at the end of this video. First, we're going to go through country by country, explaining all of it. I'm going to explain why Manifest Destiny was so easy after 1812. The Western expansion was easy. These poor Native Americans were decimated by a great catastrophe. And it's all in recorded history. You just have to look. This great tsunami, this was very synchronistic, because in my research, this is hanging on the wall right next to me. As soon as I saw it, this was painted in 1829. It was somebody in living memory of a great tidal wave that hit, a great tsunami. You can see Mount Fuji in the background that hit Japan. I'm going to tell you exactly why that tsunami hit Japan. Guys, this explains everything. I'm going to say this. I started this channel yesterday. I already have 29 new subscribers out of 50 views. That's because I'm dropping truth like balls here, guys. Hit like, hit subscribe, share this with everybody you know. It explains everything. This is what everybody in the truth movement has been searching for this whole time, and I'm not even kidding. Okay, so is this thing, what is going on my computer? Okay, so let's start right here. All right. So I'm going to skip the War of 1812. Everybody in America that's got an indoctrinated education through the public education system that went worldwide in every single country by the 1920s, so that every child is taken from their parents and indoctrinated into this Western way of thinking, this globalist New World Order way of thinking, okay? Look, when I was a kid, when my mom was a kid, we all came up with the same Bible of information. The Encyclopedia Britannica was the go-to book. I mean, it was the Bible of information. If you were researching a subject, you went to the Encyclopedia Britannica. These guys have controlled all the knowledge for 200 years now, but they can't hide what actually happened in 1812. All they can do is separate it and confuse it, but they couldn't just completely erase and change everything, because people are going to have memories. So you have to hide the lies in the truth. I'm about to explain how in 1812, in that general time frame, they got a good grip on power all around the world, because they were already the slave trading assholes, just like these are the same elite assholes that we hear about, all the pedophile rings and all this. It's the same people, guys. They've been in business for hundreds of years, and I'm about to show you how they got into power. So let's start. Like I said, we already know that on the east coast of America that the British English War was going on. What else was going on at that time frame? The Madrid Earthquakes were the biggest earthquakes in American history. They occurred in central Mississippi Valley, but were felt as far as New York City, Boston, Montreal, and Washington, D.C. President James Madison and his wife Dolly felt them in the White House. Church bells rang, which, okay, check this out. President James Madison and his wife were just kicking it in the White House, but they felt all these earthquakes. Well, I'm about to show you that supposedly in the War of 1812, the White House burned, right? Okay, so anyway, and that's not a one-off on things that burned. We'll get there. So from December 16th, 1811, look, guys, the dates that we've got, I think before this time frame, all got fudged, and I want you to understand that part of things going forward, but they can't hide what happened at 1812. All they can do is divide and conquer, so we'll get there. That it destroyed 90% of Caracas, Venezuela, and killed an estimated 15 to 20,000 people, okay? I'm going to show you exactly what happened in Caracas at that time. Okay, so we've got earthquakes all around the world. I haven't got to the volcanoes, but let's go here. Tecumseh's Comet and the prophecy of the Black Sun. Can't make this stuff up, guys. So, his name ominously meant shooting star, he who walks across the sky. Tecumseh's brother, who was a religious leader known as the Prophet, had predicted a solar eclipse in 1806. So this is what we're being told, is that this prophecy of the Black Sun was a solar eclipse.
All right, my tribe, we're back with my great good con drop. And man, look here, man, I'm honored, you know what I'm saying, to be a part of Drop Nation, man, and shout out to my yourself the real and the whole Drop Nation, man. And Tribal Mafia. You know, we got an album coming soon, Reconstruction. Y'all look out for it. So we're digging on Tecumseh, huh? Look at it. Tecumseh. Let's go.
Tecumseh. Love to hire him out. We're gonna get some of this, man. Tecumseh. Algonquin. Waka Shin origin. We're just talking Waka. Waka, Wakanda. Waka, Jaguar, Panther. Love to carry mail. Keep it going, my bro.
Hear me out.
Let go. Drop Nation. Tecumseh. We're just talking dragon canoe. Dragging canoe. Also Tecumseh, right? Tecumseh, dragon canoe, often called Tecumseh of the South. One of the Cherokee's tribe's most devoted chiefs. Yeah, man. You know, we got that. We're going to get back into this. You know, we're going to get back there. But we're just talking dragon canoe, or we're just talking Hawata. Remember, we're just talking the one who crosses, right? Tecumseh means resurrection, and in Algonquin, the word Tecumseh means goes through one place to another. We're just talking the Black Panther, right? I mean, we're just talking Waka, right? Or I was reminded of the Indian chief Tecumseh. Tecumseh, and wondered about the meaning of his name. A Google search brought up the Wikipedia entry, which says his name means shooting star. We're talking comet, Prester, wait a minute, or panther. Waka. This is the Black Panther, man.
Waka.
The resurrection. The one who goes through one place to another. Crosses the cross.
Immortal kings. Cons. Let's go.
And begin to refer to them as the Chickamaugas. 5 years later, so just because they were near this Chickamauga Creek, they called them Chickamauga, so that's not their name. You're talking Israel, man. 5 years later, the Cherokee once more moved further south and southwest into what is now Alabama, establishing 5 larger towns. They were then more commonly known as the Lower Cherokee. This term was associated with the people of these 5 lower towns. Goes from one place to another. Exodus. In order to gain distance from the colonists. to gain distance. It was all about gaining distance, separated. What we're talking about is separate place when we talk Roraima, when we talk Tecumseh, when we talk Quetzalcoatl, who attained the land of promise, when we talk to Quetzal Bird. Where's our Quetzal Bird at, man? I mean, we got some. We about to get back in this Roraima. You know, it's all connected. So you gotta establish the food, you know, the full flow with this Quetzal. See, Quetzalcoatl was opposed to regular human sacrifices. So this is Joshua, who did not deal with those human sacrifices. Right? A shooting star, right? A fiery meteor. What is a prester, John? What is a prester? A meteor thrown from the clouds. A shooting star. So when it's a shooting star, you're talking a prester, or you're talking a what? A dragon. Or a dragging, right? A dragging canoe. Dragon or dragging, I mean, a panther, a comet, a meteor, a prester, a Tecumseh, a waka, a resurrection.
The 1811-1812 New Madrid earthquakes remain the most powerful earthquakes to hit the United States east of the Rocky Mountains in recorded history. It occurred around the Mississippi River town of New Madrid, then part of the Louisiana Territory, now within the U.S. state of Missouri. The quakes were felt over roughly 130,000 square kilometers, which is 50,000 square miles, and moderately across nearly 3 million square kilometers, or rather 1 million square miles. It's amazing we don't hear more references to the New Madrid earthquakes. Anyway, well, number one, violent shocks, being awakened by noise, etc., the ground shaking, so what you might expect from an earthquake. Number two, awful noise. Number three, loud, distant thunder, hoarse and vibrating. Four, complete saturation of the atmosphere by sulfurous vapor, causing total darkness, and the air was thick with something like smoke. Now that one stands out to me, and I don't know if I'll remember to cover it, but I don't know. If you're listening to this, does that sound like something that is typical of an earthquake? Sulfurous vapor causing total darkness? Just saying. Anyway, I won't dwell on it. Next point, dreadful rapids on the Mississippi River. Number six, destruction, which comes in the way of homes, chimneys being knocked over, glass shattered in homes, trees being fallen over. That's point seven. Number eight, there was lightning involved in these quakes. The ground rose and fell. That's my point nine. And number 10, the Mississippi foamed and boiled like a cauldron. This is particularly during one of the accounts of the February 7th, 1812 quake. Okay, next point, the stream flowed backwards. Whether it did or whether it didn't seems to be contentious among some of the videos and things I've read, but in the least, the river was sloshing back and forth, and even in some cases creating almost types of waterfalls within the river where maybe the ground was raising. Okay, number 12, the earth was in a continual state of agitation. That comes from the Eliza Bryan account. Okay, number 13, this is also from the Eliza Bryan account, that the surface of hundreds of acres of land was covered in sand from fissures. Now maybe I can sneak it in to the video here. I remember just having looked it up in Christchurch in, I guess that's New Zealand. There's some pretty good pictures of what sand fissures and mud flooding and sand can do. Okay, number 14, last point, kind of the same idea, sand blows. Let's inquire every effort of skill and exertion to pass through this channel in safety, and as the sun had set, I resolved to wait until the morning and cause the boat to be moored to a small island about 500 yards above the entrance into the channel. After supper, we went to sleep as usual, and in the night, about 10 o'clock, I was awakened by a most tremendous noise, accompanied by so violent an agitation of the boat that that it appeared in danger of upsetting. Before I could quit the bed, or rather the skin upon which I lay, the 4 men who slept in the other cabin rushed in and cried out in the greatest terror, "Oh mon Dieu, Monsieur Bradbury, qu'est-ce que c'est qu'il y a?" I passed them with some difficulty and ran to the door of the cabin, where I could distinctly see the river agitated as if by a storm, and although the noise was inconceivably loud and terrific, I could distinctly hear the crash of falling trees and the screaming of wild fowl on the river, but found that the boat was still safe at her moorings. I was followed by the men and the patron, who in accents of terror were still inquiring what it was. I tried to calm them by saying, "Restez-vous tranquille, c'est un tremblement de terre," which term they did not seem to understand. Either that or Mr. Bradbury spoke very bad French. That's a little joke. Okay, so that is where I'm going to stop reading, and just to 209, on entering the house, I saw a Bible lying open on the table. They informed me that the greatest part of the inhabitants in the neighborhood had fled to the hills on the opposite side of the river for safety, and that during the shock, about sunrise on the 16th, a chasm had opened on the sandbar opposite the bluffs below, and on closing again, had thrown the water to the height of a tall tree. They also affirmed that the earth opened in several places back from the river. One of the men, who appeared to be considered as possessing more knowledge than the rest, entered into an explanation of the cause and attributed it to the comet.
They call it the year without summer. It's also been called poverty year, and 1800 and froze to death. Unfortunately, all of those names are quite literal.
Was the orbital period. Let me keep going here. This was also known as Napoleon's Comet, all right? So as Napoleon marched into Russia with an army of 700,000 strong, the Great Comet developed a tail 100 miles long. Following initial victories, Napoleon overextended himself. At the invasion of Moscow, he ran short of supplies, and the winter proved unforgiving. Remember that for later. Hundreds of thousands have died while the comet performed frightening acrobatics by splitting in two. So this comet is up in the sky going nuts. And this lasted for months, guys. This was like almost a full year. I think it was 11 months stage. Okay, so wars with U.S. and British, this supposedly, okay? Earthquakes over here. Mexico, they had an uprising. For the sake of time, I'm skipping this. These guys were all the Central American Federation at the time. They had a big uprising, change of power. Nothing new. Venezuela, devastated by earthquake. And right here, you can see, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you that what happened here, why this looks like this. So, boom, war here, boom, war here, boom, war here. I didn't show it, but I also looked up Peru and Argentina. Those guys were both at war. Brasilia, it was at war. These guys got decimated by the catastrophe too. Even Canada, guys, a rising middle class and armed rebellions led to the establishment of Parliament democracy in the Canadian colonies in 1812. Guys, evidently the Americans, it says over here, were trying to invade Canada at this time while we were at war with the English. This is official history. I didn't realize that we were ever at war with Canada. I didn't realize that Canada ever had a war, period. Okay, so that just covered the whole North and South American countries, the whole continent. Official history shows a big uprising and overthrow of power. As soon as you change the power, that's it. The ruling class, they get with the program or they get dead, and then all the...
That's another one of those names, Tecumseh. He sure comes up a lot.
Yeah, he does. And he had some prophecies where he stamped his foot, and the legend is that a river started flowing backwards, and that was during right before the year with no summer.
Alright, so Tecumseh, huh? So I'm making this video, man. Do you see all the shit that they're hiding? And you see how we tie in these dracons? These are indeed angels of destruction, and they will not fail once they're sent out on a mission. Word to con drop, man. Drop Nation, we the best. Your takedown so-called Negro was very recent. And we got this thing now at Drop Nation, man. You know, all this shit is recent, man. The timeline is screwed, man. Anatoly Fomenko told you that. So basically, everything that happened in scripture, it wasn't that long ago. Now, what could cause the type of destruction in those pictures, man? I had a good op come at me on IG, man. We bang on IG hard, you know. We even questioning the Oklahoma Tulsa thing. Because I said, let's find some pictures. If we can match those pictures, and they seem in contrast, somewhat identical to the destruction that we see in these photos. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Watch the smokeless fire, man, come out of the mouths of these Malakim. Con. And I just picked a random, you know, you put in lightning strike in China, and you know they started taking these videos down. So I just chose a random one, and I seen a dracon fly in right in front of this man's windshield. If you look for them, you'll see them. There you go, right there. Pay attention to the right. There you. Cuts like a knife, huh? This is Jacob's trouble, man. Look at the fire. Smokeless fire. We're talking plasma, i.e. ether. Look kind of fire moves, man.
172号啊，煤气爆炸了，咱家不。
哎呦我操！哎呦我操！哎呦我操！哎呦我操！
Yeah, he saw him. Y'all see? He seen that motherfucker. They know what it is over there. Talk to him. Get an email friend. Email somebody from China. Dragons, yeah. Nah, they fool y'all over there in America. And I'm going to end it with this, man. The treaty signing is what did this. And I should have got that from Cun's drop video, man, on my phone acting up. The treaty signing. That's why Tecumseh separated. And his brother prophesied, if y'all keep signing these damn treaties, the Most High is going to put Deuteronomy 28 at full blast. And that's what happened. America has been at war 93% of the time in its existence. And majority of those wars was with you, so-called Negro. Wow.